What would you do if, in the dead of night, you press your ear against your bedroom wall and heard someone whisper, "Please let me out"? At first, neighbors thought it was just late-night TV. Maybe a couple arguing. Maybe nothing at all. But when the screams grew louder and shook the building at 3 a.m, police were forced to break down the door. What they found hidden behind the walls of apartment 6A shocked everyone and revealed a nightmare no one in Ravenbrook Apartments will ever forget. Ravenbrook Apartments wasn't anything special. A modest 3-story brick complex tucked in a quiet town, home to working families, retirees, and young professionals. Life inside was predictable. The walls were thin, yes, but residents were used to overhearing each other's lives. Until the whispers began. It started faintly. Tenants would lie in bed and hear something soft, almost like crying. Others swore they heard hushed voices in the middle of the night, always around 2, 3, sometimes 4 a.m, always coming from the same place. Apartment 6A. Some laughed it off. Probably the TV, they said. Thin walls. Others ignored it. But for those who listened closely, the noises didn't sound like television at all. They sounded real. They sounded terrified. One tenant, Claire Matthews, couldn't ignore it. At 27, Claire was a nurse used to working long hospital shifts. When she finally came home, she needed silence to rest. But one night, she woke abruptly. At first, she thought she'd been dreaming. But then she heard it again. A whisper. She pressed her ear against her bedroom wall, the wall she shared with apartment 6A, and froze. "Please, let me out." Her blood ran cold. The next morning, Claire went straight to the building manager. He waved off her concerns. "It's just Mr. Hall. Quiet man. Pays rent early every month. Never causes trouble." But Claire realized something unsettling. She had lived there nearly a year, and she had never once actually seen Mr. Hall. That night, the voice returned. And this time, there was a dull thumping, like weak fists pounding on the wall. Soon, other tenants began noticing. A father living downstairs said his 6-year-old daughter woke screaming at night. She told him a woman was calling her name through the vents. An elderly resident, Mrs. Jacobs, swore she heard muffled crying every time she passed 6's door. She assumed it was TV, until she realized it never stopped, even into the early morning. Tension spread through Ravenbrook Apartments. People whispered in hallways, traded stories in the lobby. Some dismissed it as paranoia. Others feared the worst. And Claire? She couldn't sleep. Every night, she pressed her ear to that wall, hearing whispers, sobs, and once a man's voice, cold and sharp. "Be quiet." The silence after was worse than the noise. Eventually, someone called the police. 2 officers arrived for a welfare check. They knocked on 6A. No answer. They knocked again. Silence. Neighbors gathered in the hall, holding their breath. Finally, the officers left a notice on the door and walked away. That night, the voices came back. Louder. Clearer. Claire lay awake, clutching her blanket, listening as a woman cried and begged. Then came frantic pounding on the wall, just feet from where she sat frozen in her bed. And then silence. The following week, the noises escalated. Tenants were terrified. Some even left to stay with relatives. Then one rainy Thursday at 2:47 a.m., the building erupted in screams. Multiple tenants called 911 at once. The sounds were unmistakable now, blood-curdling shrieks echoing through the walls. This time, police didn't wait. They broke the door down. At first glance, 6C looked shockingly normal. A small sofa, a tidy kitchen, closed curtains. But officers noticed something immediately. The smell of bleach, sharp and suffocating. And then they saw the wall. In the bedroom, one wall looked freshly patched, the paint brighter, the plaster uneven, a sloppy job done in haste. An officer pressed his ear to it. His eyes widened. "There's something behind here." They tore the wall down. Behind the drywall was a narrow, windowless chamber, barely large enough for 2 people to crouch. Inside were 2 women. They were pale, malnourished, trembling with fear. Their wrists bore marks from restraints. Their eyes pleaded silently for rescue. The neighbors' complaints, the whispered pleas, the pounding fists, every sound had been real. The women were rushed to the hospital. The building fell into chaos. And the man everyone thought was a quiet, harmless tenant was suddenly the most wanted criminal in town. The tenant of 6A was identified as Richard Hall, a 42-year-old man. He had lived there less than a year. On paper, he was unremarkable. Steady job history, clean record, always paying rent on time. But inside his apartment, police uncovered evidence that revealed who he truly was. Polaroid photos of women bound and terrified. A ledger filled with names, dates, cryptic notes. Boxes of restraints, chains, and tools hidden under the bed. Most chilling of all were his notebooks. Page after page describing collecting women, breaking them, and always the voices through the wall. But Richard Hall himself was gone. Police launched a statewide manhunt. Flyers plastered every corner. His photo flooded the news. Neighbors recalled seeing him slipping out at odd hours, carrying heavy bags, always with his head down. For 3 days he vanished, until an attendant at a rural gas station recognized him and quietly called police. Richard Hall was arrested without a fight. At the hospital, the rescued women began to share their story. They said Hall had lured them in by offering cheap rental space. Once inside, he drugged them. When they woke, they were already in the hidden room. They screamed. They cried. They begged. Every night, they whispered through cracks in the plaster, hoping someone would hear, hoping their voices would carry through the walls. And finally, someone did. At trial, prosecutors revealed everything. The secret chamber, the photos, the survivor's testimony. The defense tried to argue mental illness, but the evidence showed careful planning, not madness. Hall had lived a normal outward life while hiding women just feet away from his neighbors. The jury convicted him on multiple counts of kidnapping, imprisonment, and assault. He was sentenced to life without parole. A Ravenbrook Apartments never recovered. Many residents moved out. They couldn't bear the memories, the thought of hearing screams and doing nothing for so long. Claire broke her lease within a month. She said she still wakes some nights, pressing her ear to the wall, half expecting to hear whispers. The building manager admitted his guilt. If I had acted sooner, maybe those women wouldn't have suffered so long. The case became known as the Voices Through the Wall. It's more than a crime story. It's a warning. Danger doesn't always hide in dark alleys. Sometimes it lives right next door. Sometimes the walls we trust to protect us carry the sounds of someone else's nightmare. And sometimes, if you listen closely enough, those whispers might be the only thing that saves a life. If you were Claire and you heard voices through your wall, would you have believed them or brushed them off as imagination? Let us know in the comments below. If this story kept you on edge, hit that like button. It helps more people find these true crime cases. And don't forget to subscribe for more gripping stories every week, where we dive into the darkest mysteries and the chilling truths hidden in plain sight. And one more thing, share this video with a friend. You never know. A story like this could make someone pay attention to the warning signs around them before it's too late.